Raypak, part of the Rheem family of companies. As a reminder to all of our participants, the instruction provided in this training is intended for qualified and experienced professionals. If you are not qualified, please do not attempt to apply these instructions on your own. This is another presentation of Raypak's Boiler Bite-Sized Bits. In this Boiler Bite-Sized Bit, we will see how to set the Versa dip switches for the XFIIRE appliance. The Versa board is located in the junction box and is easily accessible from behind the front panel. There are 8 dip switches at the bottom of the board. Each has a function. These are the 8 dip switches. We will discuss each of them on the following slides. For a single XFIIRE boiler application, plumbed primary-secondary, and without a cold water protection system, dip switches number 1 and 2 are the only ones you have to have on. Dip switch number 1 is a limit switch for the access level. This comes in handy when there's the potential for untrained hands working on the equipment. When the access level is limited, a lock icon will show on some screens. Turn dip switch number 1 on to regain full menu access. Dip switch number 2 tells the boiler if it is a master or a follower. When there's only one boiler, it's always a master. In cascade systems, there can be only one master. Always use 18-gauge stranded copper wire for cascade communications. Only use non-shielded cable. You can connect up to 7 followers to the master. Use the shortest possible run, not to exceed 200 feet. Cascade connections are polarity sensitive. Always connect A to A and B to B. Always run 18-gauge stranded non-shielded copper wire. Solid core wire can pull from the end connections when it contracts with thermal changes. The first 3 followers hook up here on the FT bus. The next 4 followers will connect PIM to PIM in daisy chain fashion. This is called a TN bus connection. These 4 additional followers will be called follower 5, 6, 7, and 8. Dip switch number 3 turns on the cold water protection options. The XFIIRE can run down to 50 degrees Fahrenheit, so in many cases, cold water protection will not be needed. These menu items become available with dip switch number 3 on. Each will be discussed in the following slides. With dip switch number 3 on, this menu will be available in the adjustment section. This is where you make changes to the cold water protection settings. Mix type describes the type of cold water protection that is present. If it is a 3-way valve like depicted here, then the mix type is valve. If an injection pump is used, then the mix type is pump. If there are multiple boilers in cascade and the cold water protection is a 3-way valve, then the mix type is plant. Mix target is the minimum inlet temperature the boiler can take. The lowest this can be set to is 50 degrees Fahrenheit. If the mix target is not met within 7 minutes, the boiler can either alarm and keep running or alarm and shut off. The mix lock setting determines this action. The mix speed setting is used for defining the rate of response of the cold water protection system. Generally, medium is best. Mix inverse is used to define which way the spring actuator works for the 3-way valve used on the cold water protection. Different manufacturers set them up differently. If the actuator responds with a 0 to 100% open with a 0 to 10 volt DC signal, then set the mix inverse to off. If the actuator responds with a 0 to 100% open with a 10 to 0 volt DC signal, then set the mix inverse to on. Mix trim allows for a final fine tuning of the cold water protection system. Scaled from -5 to +5, this allows you to give the system a little nudge, one way or the other, if necessary. Some 3-way valves need a 0 to 20 milliamp signal instead of a 0 to 10 volt DC signal. If the valve selected needs a milliamp signal, then turn on dip switch number 4. A 500 ohm resistor will be required. Dip switch number 5 is not used. Dip switch number 6 will be discussed shortly. Dip switch number 7 is used on our indirect pool heaters that are part of our XFIIRE family. Dip switch number 8 is not used. Dip switch number 6 controls heater rotation. This is some cool Raypak technology. When in cascade, turn on dip switch number 6 on the master boiler. After 48 hours of burner runtime and the current call for heat is satisfied, the next boiler in the cascade with the least amount of burner run hours will fire on the next call for heat. Now say you have a boiler that's just running in perfect harmony with the building, just modulating up and down as needed, but never shutting off. We have a solution for that too. At 60 hours of continuous burner runtime, the boiler will go to target plus differential, putting a small extra shot of heat into the system and then shut off. At that point, the next boiler in the cascade will fire up as above. If you are setting up a single XFIRE without a cold water protection system, this is how to set up the Versa dip switches. Numbers 1 and 2 on, all the others off. Be careful in adjusting the dip switches. That soft plastic tab can shear off easily. Use the tip of a ballpoint pen, or better yet, a dip switch tool. If you are using a screwdriver, you might shear off that little tab. This has been another Raypak Boiler bite-sized bit. Look for more bite-sized bits from Raypak. Raypak, engineered to perform, built to last.